Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Ankur, for the lovely introduction. It's so happy to have you all here, and thank you, iDAC, for inviting me over. And a special thank you to Ankur for actually imbibing landscape into an interior pavilion. That itself shows that collaboration is in a big way down all our sleeves, and it means a lot to us. I don't know whether how much of everyone in the front row get it, whether it's Ankur or Dipin or anyone, but lighting, landscape, we are all given the stepfatherly, motherly treatment. So when it does get its own purview, we just feel nice because it's integral. I don't have much to talk. I have a couple of slides to share with all of you all. And yeah, so I need to use this. Thank you. So yeah, I'm just going to be talking briefly about a couple of my projects. Yes, I want to boast about my projects. I do not want to just talk about other people's projects. So I have an amalgamation, and I'm not going to make any two hoots about it. That yeah, we've captured a couple of our projects about what we have done to the city of Mumbai and other cities in the past 2 decades that we've worked on, and then of course few inspiring landscape architects who've nurtured into the field and given something back to the society. This is a project which is something very dear to my heart. It's in the heart of Mumbai city. And it's dear to me is because it's 14 years old. And I agree with what Sebastian says, that I had to wait for 14 years to take this photograph. So can you imagine the plight from interior designers to architects who you guys can just take the photo day 2, day 3 after handover? I had to wait for 14 years to be in the good books with the client and make sure that it gets maintained well, because you're dealing with perishable commodity, so it could be alive today and dead tomorrow, and then take that shot to create that content for something that you want to get brownie points, potential clients, viewers, or what the hell that you were thinking of whilst doing. But also in retrospect, I know I'm deviating, but I agree to what you're saying, that sometimes when I want to look back on seeing the kind of work that maybe Nari Gandhi has done or something, there is so very little on him or what he's done or what he built whilst building that thing is totally devoid. So how do you give back to the next generation? That's me maybe, or maybe somebody in between that. How do you get that? How do you capture that? And how do you imbibe any point out of that? So yeah, I agree to what you're saying. And coming back to my landscape, I just wanted to bring this as the starting slide because it's something that is close to my heart, as I said, and it captures a lot on the terrace level. Okay, so it's the same terrace that I have done. It's something on the 16th floor facing the sea, and if you see that it's got some value to it because we've given it a right proportion of hardscape, softscape, using the right kind of xerophytic plants or maybe even indigenous plants. So sometimes there's not a particular formula to creating something that ticks, but there are a couple of small things that go in to make it come alive in a big way. So this is another terrace that we've done in Cuff Parade. I'm just talking about something that we've done in the city, and then we move on to the other slides which are on a bigger platform. I just want the viewers to understand that even if you were to take Mumbai as a city as a prototype example, and if you were to take even 50% of the high-rises, if the terraces were to get converted as a mandate into terrace gardens, can you visualize the kind of microclimate that we're going to be creating just for the coexistence of the flora and fauna together, and what it would do to the city's environment? It would be on next level, but there needs a lot of integration. If you're seeing this slide or even the one before that, there is so much of collaboration between architects, interiors. The egos have to mull out in totality to ensure that we are all in sync with other to create that one little thing that we're talking about. I'm not only just talking about microclimate and sustainability. I know they're they're the most in words. You know, the moment you say homegrown, organic, sustainable, everyone starts looking at you and tries to garner brownie points for you. I understand that. But I think that landscape is not just about that. It is also about mental well-being. And that's very, very important. It's something I think we'll end up doing work for others. But when it comes to us, we don't give that respect to our own selves. There are hardly few people who would do that. But I feel landscape is one element, which is one art of architecture. It's a leg of architecture, which is life. So we are very lucky to have that, and we should nurture it and probably imbibe it into our landscape such that it can play on us and have an emotion effect on us. So again, it's not just about vanity, and of course Ankur was generous enough to tell me that I've done the who's homes and all, but obviously landscape is not an art that somebody in Dharavi is going to call me to do the garden, right? So you can do a garden even in a small way, and that's something that was inspired when I'm working with Ankur on a project which is a small balcony garden. I took upon it is because I enjoy working with her, and this is not a sales talk or something, but we genuinely do. And we collaborate with each other, and I realized that the potential just doesn't have to happen on big large terrace gardens or podium gardens. You could be having a small balcony. You could fill it up with 150 plants, and that also is something that you could do. You do not need to be wealthy and affluent to doing that. The next slide that you see is another project where if there is complete integration in the architecture itself, there is so much that one can do with landscape. So this is another project which was done by us, very special, is only because we had the guts to actually ask the architects to cut the slabs in between to have a 50 feet ceiling height, and then we've got these kind of hanging baskets. So of course this can also be done on a smaller platter where you probably have a small home and you just want to have hanging baskets and make things grow for yourselves. This is CJ House. I proudly give the name out because it was at the annual of my career that I started this with Mr. Talati. I'm proud of it is because it was one of my first projects, and to date I feel happy that I have been able to integrate nature with workspace and collaborate them together to ensure that the efficiency of people as well as the stress level of people working in this building is slightly better than what it would be in other buildings. The good thing is I have to thank the owners and the builders that to date this building remains as it is. So it tests the time of when you work collaboratively together, then obviously you will always have a winner up your sleeves. There's no leakage in this building. The rooftop that I showed you in the beginning of the slide is of the same building. So if it's engineered well, if it's done well correctly, there never seems a problem with all those kind of things. This now is another example which really got me going. It's a hospital in Singapore where it's working with people with dementia, and they're using plants on the rooftop garden to actually make them feel and remember and touch, and all sensory things are used via plants and kitchen gardens to relieve them of their pain and make their lives a little more easier. And that itself is a very nice thought process for anyone to have thought of and doing. It's being a hospital, they have taken care of kind of plants, kind of shrubs grown, whether they're pollen free or not. They have done extensive research on this. So anyone interested, anyone wanting to do things like that should look up this hospital. This is a beautiful example of a small space in a busy city like Thailand. They've culled out a space of something close to around 5,000 square feet in the heart of the city on Silom Road. And what they've done is that this is only meant for people. Thailand also has people who work long hours. Asians do tend to doing that. So it is just meant for them to come down at a coffee break in the afternoon, feel the landscape, have the sensory feel to it, smell something which is nice as a jasmine or something like a lavender, feel any of the plants that they like, sit there, relax, and come back. And then of course there is lighting in the night to put in another kind of an atmosphere to the whole space. It's very inspiring. I think, I know I'm saying it midway, but if any of these slides ever do excite anyone in the urban planning of the city, we are all up for it. So, yeah, now getting a little complex on a wider scale, moving out of the interiors and going on the exteriors. I think, the walkability of a city is directly dependent on the health of the nation. And I strongly believe that urban planners, interior designers, architects, and landscape architects must co-coordinate to make sure that we have these kind of spaces. We all travel abroad, we eat like anything, and we don't end up putting on weight is because we walk. Those cities are walkable. Our cities need to also be walkable, and that is landscape to me. Intervening landscape into walkable areas. If you see the grass pavers is a permeable membrane, so it allows the rainwater to percolate. How sensitively a person has actually tried to interweave landscape into the hard paved areas and create usability out of it is also something that is worth recalling. This is one of our projects where we got inspired from the images that we've showed you. And we've created, this is a home in Alibag, and the entire porch area of the driveway has this grass paved weave pattern that we've tried to weave, where we've actually calculated the percentage ratio of hardscape versus to softscape, and it's actually 68% of softscape versus to hardscape. So it makes us feel happy that at least somewhere we are trying to strike a balance. The usability obviously is also kept in mind, so it's a balance of both. I don't need to even talk about this project, but it's something that when I look at it and when I go back to it, I want to always go back and always go back. Just the fact that somebody could ever think of a defunct railway yard and convert it into a walkable space with garden and fountains and herbs growing, and this has everything in it. I mean, there's nothing that a landscape architect or an architect or an interior designer would not like about this project. So this one is a project which I was just talking to Alan Abraham yesterday, because I've taken one of his slides into this module for you people to see, and I wanted his consent. And I was talking to him about this, that this is one project that in my lifetime I want to be very passionately pursuing this, where it already exists. This example is actually like the tiffin dabbawalas of India. It's so inherently Indian. I have not seen any dabbawala and the chain link of the dabbawalas other than in India. If you see the kind of food crop that gets grown on the railway yards and on the railway tracks, I have not seen that in any other country. If there were only even 5% of architects and landscape architects to collaborate this together and put it on a macro level of execution, can you imagine the kind of integrity we are talking about, creating food value for all the people living around there? That itself would be an enchanting process to do. So yeah, this is another project which is fantastically executed, and it's a 37-acre project of a dump yard in Dharavi, which has been done by Dr. Salim, and it houses over 10,000 trees, and a fantastic example of what landscape can do within the city premises. So this goes for Alan and his entire team of people who work under the umbrella of Bandra Collective. I've been a small part of it, and I think we need many, many more Bandra collectives in our country. So this is one project again which inspired us a lot to create another project which we've done in Mumbai, in Silvassa. So it was basically a quarry that was a defunct quarry, and that was made into wetland in China. Trust me, I tried to pronounce this at least 10 times. I put it into Google, but I yet could not pronounce it, so I gave up. It's called what it's called, but it's a fantastic example. And of course, inspired from this project, we've done something for the Classic Marble Company, which I'm going to show later. This has got nothing to do with Classic Marble Company sponsoring iDAC or anything. It is very, very coincidental, and they're not paying me for showcasing that. But to me, it was a good project, so I thought I would put that in. So this is, of course, this is not a defunct quarry. This is a full-fledged quarry making crores and multi-crores. But of course, I'm going to show you from the point. These were the yards, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And of course, we had a sliver in between, which is roughly around 1.5 acres of land. If you see this entire portion here and this entire portion here was filled with marbles that were just stacked in the front to show potential buyers how the marble looks in daylight. Of course, it's buying like a sari, right? You have to go and see it in the daylight, you have to see it inside. So obviously it was getting used for that. And then of course Subodh is here, and then Amit and all, we all brainstormed. He panned all our ideas down because obviously all this costs a lot of money. And then of course I had to trick him into using his marble inside this space, and we finally landed up doing a space for him that has weightage and an example of landscape integration into these kind of areas which are industrial. I think that is also important. The ratio that was calculated, this area is called something between C1 and C2. This is C3, C4. The total area of softscape in this entire space is 52%, which is slightly over 50%, so which is worth talking about. The other things that we've used here is gravel. I think it's the most underrated material that people don't like using, but I feel that the heat absorbent quality of gravel, the percolation quality of gravel is just superb. I think other than women wanting to wear high heels and not wanting to walk over it, it doesn't have any other problems. People should use it. That's just a close-up of the whole space that was created. Okay, here I'm going to zip my mouth and I'm going to ask the audience what they feel about this and what is their reaction. I think I don't want to comment on either of the two, but it's something that is left for introspection. You may choose to love it, hate it, be ambivalent, or not even react to it because it doesn't matter to you. Thank you very much for your time.